And a very good story. And what I found interesting here is that the story need to be emotional and have an emotion. Challenging us, a lot of founders are afraid of being vulnerable, afraid of how we start our business or our projects. But so the story of Fortified Bike Alliance is this, right? Bike light, not so much emotion on its own, but when the founders sit down and search their story, they actually found a real story of their friend home accident. And that is the story that they built around in order to behind the Kickstarter campaign of a founder's story. And so we sit down and I was asking her, why did you start your business? Why did you start your business? And at first she was telling me reasons like, because I like to eat healthy food, because it makes me feel better, and so on. And through the emotion that she showed when she say that, I still haven't touched it. There was something missing. She did not show emotions when she talked about the reason why. And a good founder story, or a true or authentic good one, is the one that you feel a compelling emotions when you talked about the reason why you started, right? And when I asked her more, she finally told me that her and her brother was in the kitchens and they were playing with different recipe for salads. And a couple of months after her brother passed away, and it was her continuing to build the business, overcome a lot of hardship in a celebration to her brother's love. And that was when I knew that we found a piece of good story. When I turn around and we ask all the 50 people who are sitting in that room, all our founders, and I asked them, so now with this story, do you feel more compelled to go to her place and eat salad than other places? And every single person raised their hand, right? Because we know that we can try to compete with others' business in the quality or in the service or in other factors. However, it's important to understand that your story is the thing that's unique. Nobody have lived through your life. Nobody has your story. So that is by default a unique factor that is free for you to use, and simply you can start using them by learning a few simple principles. So in a world full of noises, story are the music. And now that you understand why is it important, the importance of crafting a powerful founder story, here are a few elements that make it powerful. So I've created put together these 4 elements. It's REAL. So powerful storytelling is real. Number 1, it is resonance, meaning that it creates an emotional response of connections and trust through persuasive narrative elements. And persuasive and narrative elements include 2 things. Number 1, it is emotionally engaging, meaning that the storyteller needs to be vulnerable. And number 2, it is crafted with easily imaginable scenes. Resonance is important. Storytelling is the important part of branding. And we're going to talk about branding. We're talking about creating a royal community, like a loyal community, sorry, not royal, a loyal community, right? We're talking about brand loyalty. And in order to create that relationship, we need to create an emotional response, and hence the importance of making it resonant. So that's first, resonant. The second, E for empowering. A story is not just for its own sake. So when we tell a founder story, we don't tell it just because. We tell it because there is a lesson behind it. We want to inspire others to dream bigger or be bigger, makes people believe in themselves. Ultimately, the story is about you, but it is not about you. It's about the people that you are telling that story to. And when you can make people feel more empowered at the end of your story compared to when to themselves before they listen to your story, you create a very positive emotional connection with them. So the next element is A for authentic. So authentic storytelling, basically it is real. It is born from truth. It is really showing the world who you really are, what you truly stand for, what you really believe in, what is it really in your DNA. And that is not simple. Because maybe at least for me, when I first started my business, I wasn't fully clear or be able to articulate why I started it. So it might require some personal soul searchings or organizational soul searching on your part in order to be able to truly share an authentic story. And finally, the element of leadership. Powerful storytelling inspire action. Because true leader inspire actions. So if there's no call to actions or any ways that you can, through your story, ask people to do something, or it can be to subscribe to your community, it can be to receive your offer, it can be if you're talking to your team to create better customer service, if you're talking to your investor to like invest in the business. It needs to have an element of leadership, meaning it needs to inspire people to act. So those are the 4 elements of powerful storytelling: real, R for resonant, E for empowering, A for authentic, and L for leadership. And that is the element. Now I'm going straight into the stages of powerful storytelling. Now, when I talk about storytelling and how important it is for founders, I find a lot of people get a bit skeptical, especially if they are male, because they think that it needs to be artistic. But the thing is that if a story is too flowery or even too artistic, it can reduce the impact of it. So the most important thing in storytelling is actually not how good you are with words, but it's about the structure of the story. So structure is the most important thing in a story. It doesn't matter if you're a really good speaker, if you are really good at words, if you don't have a strong structure, then you don't have a powerful story, full stop. All right? And if you have a very strong structure, you can use very simple words, very simple details, talking about it in a very simple way, and still it will make sense and it will be able to bring impact. Now, so here you should be seeing on your screen just pure awesomeness. So The Lion King, Harry Potter, The Lord of the Ring, Spider-Man, Star Wars, The Matrix. And please tell me that you like at least one of these so we can still be friends. So these are the story, so these are some of the most loved story of our time, right? And they have one thing in common. Guess what? All of these follow the same structure. And this is that structure. It follows the 7 stages of Joseph Campbell monomyth. And don't be afraid when you look at this, because I did the hard work of simplifying it for you. But let me just explain what it means for a moment. So Joseph Campbell was a curious dude, and I like him a lot. So Joseph Campbell was a mythologist. He studied comparative mythologies. And back in the time when other mythologists study how different cultures and myths are different, Joseph Campbell studied the similarity. And it amazed him to find out that across culture, there is this one thing that all of the cultures share, all the myths share, all the big stories share, including the story of Buddha, of Moses, of Jesus. And that is the monomyth, and it basically is a universal story structure using again and again and again and again. And Hollywood have used that to create blockbuster, and this is a proven story structure that have been working for thousands of years. So basing on these, we have a structure that is proven, that works. And I've simplified it to create the 7 stages of a founder's story. So let me just go through the stages. And once you get this, it's almost like you fill in the blank, right? And the key to crafting a good story is not really about what you put in, but about what you leave out. Because let's be honest, our life is complex. Many things happen at the same time, so many different details and events and peoples, and it's all really, it's basically a huge mess, right? And and our entrepreneur life is also, can be a huge mess as well, for most of the case. So this is about what a few details that you choose to put in that together makes sense, right? And thinking what are the things that you should totally leave out. So here comes. I see that there are a few comments right now, so I'm just gonna go through it. Yes, love the Matrix. Great. I love the Matrix too. Yeah, no. So, so here's the 7th stage in founder story, and let me go through one by one. So the first stage is the beginning, is the background, is the starting point, is a frame of reference for your listener. What happened like before. And then the second stage is the call. The call is the trigger. Is what trigger you, the moment when you start thinking, I'm going to invent a product / create an app / develop a program. What was that trigger? The third stage is the test, is the beginnings, is the first challenges. Were there any mentors? Were there early enemies? Were there allies? What are the early challenges of the story? Of you after you've heard the call and you decide to start taking actions. Number 4 is the turning point, or it is the most challenging point of your story. What was the turning point that it changed everything? Big conflicts. It could be an outer conflict. It could be an inner conflict. It could be an inner battle. It can be an outer battle. It is the moment of truth. And the biggest conflict that the story is building up to. After the turning point, here is the conclusions. What happened here? Did it end in success, or did your founder story end in failure and lesson learned, which is also a success? How the crisis ended, and give people a resolution for your story. Number 6 is the lesson learned. So after that, after you've overcome the big challenge and you've arrived at the conclusions, and you arrive at your ending, when you look back, what was the big aha moment? And then show how your product, brand, or business was a direct result, the direct outcome of that big lesson. And finally, 7th stage is the offer. What is that you have to offer? Is it join us in our cafe when you share the story with, let's say, your consumer, or subscribe to our newsletters, or subscribe to our service, or join our community, and so on. So a call to actions at the end. I'm just going to go through one again: the beginning, the call, the early test, the turning point. So the number 3, right? The test is building up to that turning point. And then number 5 is the conclusions. Number 6 is the lesson learned, and number 7 is the offer. If you look at this, you are going to see that the story will change, depends on whom you are talking to, right? Because the offer change. What I really like to do is that I like to work backward from stage number 7. That's personally how I do it, and how I coach people to do it. So I was work backward. I first asked myself, and you can answer the question too. Who are you talking to? Like, who are you telling that to? I would say that you want, as founder, 2 stories. 1 for your team, right? Your founder story for your team, and one for your customers. And maybe you want to craft a founder story that is directly for your investors or other stakeholders of your company. So who are you talking to? Is it your team or is it your customers? If it's your team, the call to action will be different. And if it's the customer, the call to action will be different too. Right? And then from this offer, what would be the lesson learned that could directly link to that? And then from then, you can work backward to see what are the details that you can choose to put in here, to insert in different stages of a founder story that could facilitate that lesson. Yeah. So let me give a real example. Sorry, my throat. So let me give a real example of me working with the founder of a cafe. All right. So the business is a really nice, beautiful cafe. The offer, the person that this founder was trying to share the story with is the customer. So this is the story for the customer. The offer is come to join our cafe and enjoy this beautiful space that we've created for you. Right? Make this place your home. That's the offer. Now, the lesson learned from that offer is that, so the founder is someone who have traveled a lot, who have, from her own background, childhood story, she was from a separated family. She traveled a lot. She's been to so many different places, and she has all her life struggled with feeling belong, finding home. And so what we've discovered through doing our internal work together between me and her, and so that is a big purpose of her across the board in all her business, is to create beautiful space where people feel at home. And her cafe is one business that is aligned with that purpose. So beautiful space where people get to connect and feel at home. And this is a cafe created for, especially for travelers. So the lesson learned here from that offer, join us, join our cafe, enjoy this space, come to us, come to this new family, because we are your family, and feeling at home in our space. Open your heart, connect. So that is the offer. The lesson learned is no matter where you go, you can create home. So that is her personal lesson learned. No matter where you go, you can create home. And then it's go back. From then, going back to the conclusion, the turning point, the test, the call, and the beginning. So the conclusion was for the founders to give 100% and commit and build her business, not only this cafe business, but also many other businesses as well. Once she found a sense of home, and that once she opened her heart, she can connect with so many people and find family amongst her own community, including the customer that she knows. So the turning point was moving backwards. It was when she stand in the opening of her cafe full of doubt. She was like super young founders. She's full of doubt, and she saw people coming in and sharing their drinks and talking, and most of them were trouble. And she realized that this is exactly the thing that she wanted to do. And her purpose was to create a beautiful space where people could connect. Now, the test, moving backwards again, was when she first started. She was having a lot of doubt, was a lot of, she has financial difficulty, a family difficulty. It was her and her mother's and so on. And then the call was moving backward was when her, the call was moving backward was when her and her mother sitting down and trying to think about a family business idea that they could do together. And they thought, well, we would like to create a space where we can we can share a sense of family. And then the beginnings was her being a immigrant, born in a family of immigrants, having a separated and have been feeling really alone most of her life and not feeling a sense of home. So if I go from the beginning until the end, we will be having a really personal story relating to her own personal purpose that is helping her to stand out and make it a lot of sense for her to start out a cafe business for traveler in order to feel at home. So coming from her own sense of purpose. Yes. So that is the 7th stage of the founder story. And now I think I would love to open the floor for your questions. And I'd love to address any questions at all. So Krista say that she or he sometimes frame the offer as the call to join us. Yes, yes, yes. The offer is the call to action. That could be call to join customer team or any other action that you want to inspire people to do. So any questions so far? We've gone through the 4 elements of a founder story. So someone, iPhone is asking, do you believe that unique stories have an edge over generic story from marketing? I'm not sure what you mean by a generic story from marketing. So there are 2 types of story. I want us to not to get confused. There is a founder story and there is a story brand, a brand story where your customer is the heroes of the story and you are positioning your service as a part of the hero's journey, also using the hero's journey, but that's not something that we're talking about in today's webinar. For the founder story, it is inherently unique because each of us has a unique reason for creating our business. And I think there is a trick here that sometimes some founders think we might think that our story is not unique enough or it's not special enough, but it doesn't have to be like earth-shattering for it to work. If it is real and genuine, it's good, right? So you have a story for sure. The key is that it is genuine and it is real. Zaki is asking, will it end for the customer when it's done? I'm not sure what you mean, Zaki. Will it end for the customer once it's done? I'm not sure what it means. Is it better in form of real video recording or written text? Videos is also very useful. So in terms of the form of how you tell your story, it can be in a video form or a written text too. Video in itself is effective. So I would say try different format. The generic story as in story of poverty, which are very common. I would say that the key is that you look inside yourself and you find a really compelling reason, emotionally compelling reason why you started. That would be the first step. And once you're able to touch it, using the 7-stage structure in order to paint by number and put the details in order to craft your story should be much easier. Do you have, Yatno is asking, do you have difficulty to narrate different story for different sets of people? I would say it depends on who you are talking to, right? And then the story, how you tell the story is customized in order for that group easiest to receive. I would say if, and I imagine that with your business, you have specific avatar of customers that you are talking to using your story. So once, if you are super clear on your customer's avatar, then it helps you to create story for them and deliver story in a way that would best suit them. Let's say if your customers are some millennials who are very high tech, probably really entertain, like probably you want to present it in a way that is more visual, or share it in a way that is more visual. I don't know if you are sharing your story with older group, and let's say you work with elder, then you want to keep it simple and in written format, for example. Story. The story of the founder. So Zakir just reframe his question, the story of the founder, so that it can relate with the customer. Once the story and experience is consumed, the customer will feel that it's complete and done. I'm still not 100% sure, because the founder story helps people understand where you come from and why have you created this business or services. And this is the thing that will make your business memorable comparing with other businesses. So I would say it's one stage of it. I'm not sure if the customer can completely consume your story. Like, I don't think they would eat it and then forget about it. It helped them to have an emotional response, emotional connection with your business, because they are seeing you as the one behind it, and there is the reason for you to do it. And if that touched their heart, then you have them, and you've managed to put your business, make your business stand out from other business, because each founder have their own reason for starting theirs. Well, the storytelling process cannot be too rushed. So Krista said that the storytelling process can't be too rushed. Do you agree? I do agree. And you might want to have different length of your founder story. You can have the one that is shorter when you have very short time, and you can also have the one that is longer when you have a longer time. I think the 7 stages is, if you put it together, it would take about 5 minutes to tell, 5 to 10 minutes to tell. Or if you want to aim for like a minute or so, you can just have the 3 parts, right? The beginning, the middle, the end. The beginning of the story, and then the middle is like the biggest challenge that you've fought through in order to create to continue creating this business. And then the end is like, what is the resolutions after you've overcome that big challenge? What happened? So that could be like a 3 parts. But I find the 7 stages more compelling. So Oliver asked really great questions. Thank you, Oliver. In your opinion, which stage is the most important, and which stage founder usually do not pay enough attention? Let me see. I think the most important is always the turning point, the one right at the middle, stage number 4. Because that is the turning point. And that is the big conflict in the story. And that would be something that people remember. The second stage that I think is important is also the trigger, is when you heard the call to start this, to create this business. So those 2 moments are what you want to search and find. I don't think, so which state founder usually do not pay attention? I don't think founder pay a lot of attention in telling their founder story in general. So I would say, you guys are in a really great place, because you are interested in finding out how you can start telling your founder story. So and those 7 stages the trigger, I would say the trigger and the turning points are important. The lesson is also important, like the offer is really important too. And I've compressed it into a 7 stage, meaning that each of those components are pretty important on their own. So you do want to pay attention to, I would say, all of them. So NTHNHI asks that you have a question for stage number 6. What if we have several important coming after a story to you? Is it better to focus on one biggest point? One biggest learning is good enough. Okay, so you don't want to put too many things, so it's confusing. That's why I'll say that you want to choose one biggest compelling lesson that will link directly to your offer and make it the biggest impact for whoever you are telling the story to. Otherwise, it's too many. So I'm seeing a lot of questions, so I'm a little bit, so many questions, but I'm trying to answer all of them. So what is, Mega say, what is your view of a podcast as a medium of telling your story? Should 12 to 20 minutes a good time frame for the podcast? So I think podcast is a great medium. I have not done a podcast, so I'm not sure how it is working right now in Southeast Asia as a market. So this is please, if anyone seeing here have insight about that, please write in the chat. I think that in terms of podcasts, I've listened to podcasts that is like 45 minutes or more, and I've also listened to podcasts of a shorter length. So I would say it really depends on how are you trying to package your podcast, coming from someone who don't do podcasts myself. But I think that it really depends on how you want to package your podcast. Who are you trying to target, and what are you trying to deliver? And then you can decide on the length. You might want to, if you're trying to start a podcast, might do some research or interviews with people who are your audience to see if they're listening to podcasts and the length of the podcast that they are listening to determine that. But it is a great medium to tell your story. When you're choosing a medium of storytelling, I would say go with your strength. If you have a really big team and a lot of time and money and resources to invest, then it's great. But if you are a smaller team, a lean team, or if you are doing it on your own, really go with your biggest strength and find what's the easiest. Which is the easiest medium for you? Is it blog post? Is it a podcast? Is it videos? What would be the easiest one? Yes, Rachel is saying, Leo, Rachel, would you be open to help review my founder story? I would love that, actually. I think it would be great for us to all hear one. If Rachel, maybe Millie, you can enable Rachel to speak so you can tell us your founder story. Please keep it short, and then I will be able to give you some feedback. So while we sort it out with Rachel, I'm going to talk. I'm going to answer the questions. How can this be used on a pitch sessions or deck? Now, if you are having like this, sorry, can I answer this question before we go to the story of Rachel? So answer the questions by someone else who's asking if this can be used on a pitch session or deck. Now, if you're in a pitch session that you have like 5 minutes to like go through your deck and make your point, you don't have to tell your founder story. I think it's important when you are creating relationship with investors. When you create a relationship with investors, maybe on the side, maybe during coffee chat, or that you know how to tell your story in an effective way, right? Because that help them to see where you come from and the heart and the purpose behind why you do what you do. And that is going to help them to be able to trust that you have the resilience, because when you come from a place of purpose and trying to and when you have a compelling reason to do what you do, then it links to other things that investor love, like resilience, the ability to follow through the beliefs that you have, besides the fact that your business makes sense. So yeah, so that's what I have to say about that. Great, Rachel. I think Rachel is with her mic. Go ahead, Rachel. We are listening to you.
Hi, can you hear me or see me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so I'm thinking, so my story is, okay, so I sell popular art ceramic.
Great.
And it's under the name Milena Nguyen. So it's basically I changed on these popular art ceramics that are actually ceramic, but they have a certain shape and size that's actually been popularized and designed with popular culture, the likes of Andy Warhol and things like that, to make this traditionally looking sculpture become something that's actually collectible or like a small decorative that can be put at home. So my story is that this designer actually resonates with me because she is also from she is also like a returnee Chinese immigrant kind of thing. So the people who buy my thing are people who can identify with the science with the artist who actually graduated from one of the top fashion or design school called London St. Martin's, and then while they want to buy a decorative that's probably like in a higher price range, this particular art form, while it might not be accessible to everyone because ceramic can be quite hard to make, but the way that she has done it is that she's able to have her own workshop in Beijing, in the outskirts, where she could still do like a popular derivative of art, and people could identify with her because she still has the innately, it's still a figurine of a doll that's very Chinese, it's a deer, but yet at the same time very westernized and very popularized, where she would adopt design elements also, so for example design elements of famous impressionist artists, or the likes of the popular art form on her work. So I am trying very hard to follow the 7 steps because essentially there isn't like a hero or there isn't like a lesson to learn per se. But
okay, can I ask you a few questions, Rachel? Can I call you Rachel? Sure. Is that your name?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
so what I've heard so far is there something that a lot of people do when they first telling story is that there is a lot of details. And I think you gave, if I'm not wrong, you gave me a lot of information about the product.
Mm-hmm.
But this is not about the product. And I'm a bit lost also because, there's a lot of nice feature that sounds really nice, but I'm a bit lost because I'm not really sure. There's a lot of details, and when details are put together, they don't create a story. They need to follow some order, right?
Okay.
So therefore, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So can I ask what was your trigger?
I think my trigger was when I saw that actually this particular app I saw it being bought in, like it was not just like one of it was bought on the table, but then I saw that it was very nicely being displayed on a small pop-up in the art district. But then the people who come to the store, right, is actually a lady in her 30s or 40s, and she is Chinese, but she just dresses a bit more modern, and then she has a young kid in tow, and then she bought right away 2 sets, and one of it is like a blank set, it's like a canvas, but it's essentially a white one that has no design, nothing, but it comes with the paints and all that for you to do your own art on there. And the other set that she bought is a very grand looking set that is like a golden color one. So yeah, so that I thought, actually it's not just like a sculpture, but it could be used as an artwork, a collectible artwork, but it could also be used as a art practice for kids. So it's actually a very versatile item.
Okay, so why does it touch you? Why was that moment special?
Because
why was that the trigger?
That's a good question, actually.
Okay, so we don't have, I don't think we have a lot of time to really because it would take like a lot of time to dig down. But you have a story. We think that at first when we look back and all like random details, but if we really ask ourselves questions, why was that the trigger? Why was that the moment touch something in me that compelled me to think about how do I do this business? Then we start finding connections and patterns. I think there is a story somewhere, somehow that moment touched you. And if I have more time with you, I will be able to go back to your history and your formative years and your bringing up to find out how and be able to articulate it more fully. So yeah, when I work with someone to find out their story, I like to start first with the trigger. And you might have multiple triggers, honestly. Yeah. But you want to choose one that makes the most sense. Because we can have multiple triggers, but we want to choose something that makes the most sense. And then from the trigger, you have the test, right? You decide, okay, let me do this ceramic thing. And then you start to do, what was the first thing you did? What was the small new big challenges? Was your parents supportive of you, right? or they're like, when are you going to get a proper job? So like through early tests, and it makes you doubt yourself. Or it can build towards some big conflict, or you invest your first money and then you're near bankruptcy, and then you like, what was the turning points? And it leads to the turning points, and then it leads to the conclusions until now, right? The conclusion of you still doing it now. So you're trying to find a way to do it now. It seems to me that this is the conclusion. And then now that you look back, what was the big thing that you learned? What was the important thing that you learned? And then you can lead to the call to actions. So, so I hope that is somehow useful. So I would like for you to go back and look at those moments that triggered you and just ask yourself, why did that moment touch me? And once you are clear on that, then continue drafting your story from the trigger and maybe email that to me. Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you so much for the chance. Thank you.
Bye. So we need to wrap up soon. So Millie told me that we need to wrap up, and we will be. Millie, can you mute Rachel somehow? Because I think I'm still hearing a little bit of background noise. Great. So we need to wrap up now. I'm going to pick the last questions in order to answer before we wrap. So 2 last questions. Number 1 is how to strike a balance in story that can be both compelling and still have a corporate feel to it. I think that these tools are not exclusive in my opinions. The story that is personable, that is personal, that is even vulnerable, doesn't mean that it cannot be professional. So, so I would say maybe the language you use, you know that you were talking to professional, let's say. So the language is professional, but it doesn't mean that the details of the story cannot be personal and even vulnerable. So you probably will not want to say that like dude or using language that is too casual. But I think a compelling story, vulnerable, personable, could be still at the same time very professional. So these are not exclusive in my opinion. So final questions is, why do some stories succeed and others fail despite the uniqueness? In my opinion, it comes down to how deep is the soul searching process of the founder. And whether us as founder, we are willing to go deep inside ourselves to touch a place inside us that is emotionally, that makes us feel emotional. When we talked about why we start our business, it doesn't mean that we have to sit there and cry, but we feel emotional about it. Emotions is energy, right? Emotions is energy in motion. So when a story, when we tell a story and we feel there is a touch of emotion in it, there is the sentence story itself carries energy. So I didn't get to tell you my story, but my founder story, but the trigger that I felt was when I was in a trip in Africa, and I saw poverty, and I saw a woman sitting, a beggar begging women sitting on the street, holding her naked babies in her hands, trying to breastfeed her. And I saw her eyes, and I could never ever forget that. And many times when I tell that story, no matter how many times I tell it, I will feel like just choke up, because it was an important moment for me, and it wasn't clear until I started searching. So remember the 4 big elements: REAL. R is for resonant. In order for a story to be resonant, it needs to be emotionally engaging. So you need to be able to be vulnerable. E for empowering. A for authentic. And it can only be authentic if you've done enough soul searching to really be clear why you're here, who you are, what you really deeply believe in. Yes, so those are important. So thank you all for joining this webinar, and thank you, Millie, and also the E2017 for having me. My pleasure.
Thank you, Milena, and thank you, everyone. It's been an amazingly engaging session, and I always keep telling Milena I love her energy, and to see her speak today. Thank you, everyone, for some amazing questions, and we hope to keep doing more of these and keep seeing you to learn more and excel in your empowering entrepreneurial journeys. Feel free to write to us if there's anything you want us to know. We will be sharing a short recording, maybe in a video format story, or whatever works for the community and the others who couldn't join in today, to know Milena's inputs and take all this learning. And some of you can obviously, yes, go back to all those 7 steps that Milena has taken us through. I mean, even as a trained journalist, I think these 7 steps are quite the new age mantra, right, for us, uh, from the conventional way of writing. It's been with all the digital mediums, it's just a great learning. And I loved how Milena ended at emotion is energy, which is exactly, I think, what this whole community at E27 that we're all thriving to build and working to keep everyone knit together about. It's all emotional. We're here to talk to each other, learn from each other, and share. And with our first webinar edition, this is the spirit that we hope to kickstart. And I'm glad Milena was our key speaker for this one. So hope to keep doing more of these. Thank you, everyone. And we will all see you soon.
Yes, please. And if you write your founder story and email me, I'd love to. I promise that I'll take a look at it and give you extra feedback.
And that's amazing. If Milena is going to give you a lot of feedback on your founder story, E27 would be happy to publish them via our contribution program. And it's open for anyone. You can log in, create your profile. If you're an entrepreneur or beginning to be an entrepreneur, have some experience in the startup ecosystem, or there's just something about your story that you want to share. Whenever you are ready, just feel free to go log in and submit your story.
Okay. Bye,
Thanks,
guys.
everyone. Bye.